everyone, and welcome to this brand new spoiler review episode of The Boys, Season 4 here on the Geek Buddies, brought to you by the
Geek Buddies.
Hey! Yes, sir. We're back at it for another trip into the world of The Boys, another bloody trip, another heartbreaking trip, another devastating trip, another I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I am trip, and so much madness going on here in this particular episode. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the 5th episode of Season 4. That is Shannon McClung. I am John Rocha. We got limited time, so we're going to jump into it. Shannon, what are your thoughts overall on this episode? We get some Vought 52 Comic Con jokes lobbed all over the place. We got some fun trailers, but we also get Hughie and Daphne, his mom, and his dad, Hughie Sr. there, and what they experience after Hughie gets the compound V inside of him. And we got flying killer sheep there at the farm. So your overall thoughts on this episode, what stood out to you, what worked for you, what didn't work for you? Let me know.
I mean, if there was one that was sort of tailor-made for us specifically, it was probably this episode. Like, as it starts with the whole Vought Expo intro, the interstitials throughout, like advertising, training A-Train, the new thing that Firecracker is doing from Vought Faith. I mean, it's just so funny. And, my wife and I, we literally just finished watching the episode like 20 minutes ago.
Nice.
And as the episode concludes with a lot of laughter, she's like, man, who knew that the episode with flying sheep and a send up of Comic Con was going to end with some dusty eyes. And I was like, I know this show does just a lot of things right. 100%. And it was just a pleasure.
Absolutely. And this one's over an hour long, but it kept your interest as it was darting back and forth with all the things that were happening here in this particular episode. We even got Stan Edgar out of jail to have a little interesting subplot there going on at the farm with Victoria Neuman. Yeah, I love the V52 stuff. So funny. Really, a takedown of Marvel, a takedown of these Comic-Con situations, a takedown of cosplayers. And then, of course, a takedown also of how corporations supposedly care about diversity, but then are so ham-handed and clumsy and awkward with how they try to show their representation. And yes, I mean, as it all had been through the entire season, clearly dead set on attacking the MAGA, Trump, Fox News agenda there with the way, is it Coleman or whatever his name is, the host there of the Vought network. What happens to Cameron? I think what happens to him by the end of the episode, they're almost like Tucker Carlson when they kicked him out of Fox News unceremoniously. These people kick you out by kicking the shit out of you and killing you. So it's a very, very elevated, high-end stakes type of show for sure. But let's break it down into 3 sections. Let's talk about the V52 Comic Con parody here, Shannon. There, as you said, all the trailers here for Firecracker, her Faith One, A-Train with Will Ferrell making a comeback now, The Deep dropping little hints for his one that's coming up here. And as I said, racist moments that convey a corporation, but we also get Cameron and Deep having this weird kind of back and forth because the Deep is mad that Cameron actually reported the news that he got fired, and there's some question about why would you do that? And then Sister Sage is roaming around here trying to find out who the leak is, and I feel like she suspects A-Train. And I wonder if you believe she doesn't know that it's A-Train or if this is all part of her plan. Then we got the 2 new recruits, of course, from Gen V being a part of this. We have Homelander teaching Ryan how to be an evil superhero here with the Bonnie and AJ situation. And then A-Train recruits Ashley to be part of his team. And then right afterwards, Cameron dumps Ashley because she's no longer in charge. And then Ashley gets back at him by setting him up essentially as the leak here to be destroyed and beaten to death by the 7. So your thoughts overall on what happened here at this V52 Comic Con parody section of the show?
I mean, again, all the trailers, so funny. The what was it? The integrated digital marketing that they do when the Deep has this very kind of early 1990s network TV file that says top secret and big red block letters. And he's like, I think did he say for our white audience, he replaces it with a double IPA.
Yes.
And then he says for the black audience, that image is replaced with a peach cognac. Like, my God. I mean, it again, they just do such a good job skewering Everybody, like, it again, really, really funny. The Ryan Homelander,
Yes, talk about that, man. Yeah.
watching how Homelander, where we left in the last episode, how he has sort of said goodbye to the human part of himself. Like, he
Yeah.
basically paid back everyone that treated him poorly as they were kind of figuring out what all he could do. And so watching him make more of a connection with his son, weirdly. I mean, it seemed like it was a genuine emotional connection, even though it was kind of evil. Literally asking him, like, what do you think, Ryan? Do you like this? And Ryan kind of nixing the super school idea, having AJ, the director, hand over his black card, the keys to his car, and then watching as Ryan says, "I want to help people," and Homelander being able to saying that he's been manipulated his whole life. And he was doing that to Ryan, and he doesn't want to do that anymore. And what does he do when Ryan says, "I want to help people"? He instantly manipulates him. He's like, one thing you could do. And we watch as the PA just starts slapping the shit out of the director. Ever worked as a PA on a set, I imagine that is a bit of a fantasy fulfillment. The whole thing with Sister Sage, she is just such a great character. And from my point of view, she 100% knows it was A-Train.
I think so too. Yeah.
Being the smartest person on the planet, she sees an advantage to this. She's like, I don't need to rat him out. I'm going to be able to weaponize this information later. And the dynamic between Ashley and the anchor, like, Ashley's not dumb enough for him anymore, and watching the ultimate payback that she got. And again, this sort of unholy alliance between Ashley and A-Train. Everything was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, what I thought was really great about the Homelander Ryan stuff is that you not normally, of course, you'd want to advocate for a PA, a female PA who's clearly being sexually, how can I say this, sexually intimidated? Harassed. Harassed, yes, by her boss there, Adam, the director there, played by PJ Borg. Like, having her get a little bit of revenge in that situation, fantasy revenge, right? Slapping the shit out of him. We kind of could be like, okay, I might support that, right? I might support that. But because it's being done through the prism of Homelander manipulating Ryan into indulging these elements of himself, because he's not an emotionally mature kid. And so by satisfying or satiating that lust for violence or lust for revenge, as young male kids would probably have, I think it's all gets mixed up, right? So it's a logical thing that makes you be like, well, I like what's happening, but I don't like how that's happening in the prism of that. So I love that as a challenge for the viewers. I dug that as well, and I agree with you. It struck me that Sister Sage absolutely knows A-Train is involved. So so I'm in my head, because we only have 3 episodes left. I'm wondering, like, what is her overall plan here? What is she trying to do? And certainly Firecracker tells her earlier in the episode, like, if you weren't Homelander's right-hand woman, I would absolutely take you out to Woodhouse and beat the crap out of you. So clearly there are people who want to destroy her, but Homelander is like her shield. And I wonder if she's manipulating A-Train to do something, and even maybe this unholy alliance between A-Train and Bonnie is part of her plan as well. Like, remember, she's like 40 steps ahead of everybody else, so she will know what people will do. So I wonder how this is all going to play itself out. I loved the trailers. I loved those little moments overall with this. And the Deep Cameron stuff was weird in that he had issues with him reporting the truth about it. But then later and this is why the Deep is such a interesting character, because one side of him is like, you feel sorry for him because he can't outwardly express his love. And Cameron tries to use it against him by saying, I'll do a package on that octopus tonight. But the other side of him, he's the one, he also whispers into Cameron's ear, I'm still gonna have sex with your wife when he's about to get beaten to death. So there is an evilness mixed up with this kind of good-heartedness that's a really interesting aspect of the Deep. And I loved Ashley turning the tables. I think this makes Ashley now closer to joining the boys through A-Train, because A-Train is already connected to the boys, and since they know each other's secrets, I wonder if she will be a key in turning on the 7. What do you think about that?
I mean, that makes total sense to me. I mean, the moment that Mother's Milk said that he's going to try to flip A-Train, it sure seems like, looking at the reticence that A-Train has had with all of the darker things that Homelander has tried to get them to do, like, you know, beating up the Homelander or the home team, those 3 guys at the beginning of the season. A-Train is absolutely flipping. And the idea that Ashley, who is now genuinely afraid, like she was always kind of afraid of a Homelander. She wasn't really afraid of the rest of them. Like, she felt like, I am smarter than these people. I'm the new Stan. They are going to listen to me, so I can be an asshole. And after the Deep told her, basically kind of, indulging in Sister Sage's words of wisdom, saying that, you're the superior being here. You don't let her talk to you like that. And watching how she had written out that resignation letter in the episode before, and you saw her shred it. I could 100% see Ashley eventually ending up on the side of the boys next season. And the fact that it's going to end next season, like, we are approaching the finish line. And typically, with these big guest stars that they get, these big recurring players, where it was when we had Soldier Boy and Stormfront, they typically only last a season. I feel like Sister Sage and maybe Firecracker are going to make it to season 5. Definitely one of them. I don't know which one yet, but definitely one of them, I would think, is going to make that jump to the last season.
And we'll see if the 2 who were brought up from Gen V make the jump to the next season as well, depending on how they write the storylines out. If there's going to be a Gen V season 2, how that's all going to lead into things here for the 7. Let's move on to the tougher aspect of the show here. This episode, Hugh, his dad, and his mom, Daphne. So Hugh Sr. has come out of this coma thanks to the compound V that I thought maybe Daphne, who was a figment of imagination of Hughie, put in him, but no, Daphne absolutely exists. His dad can see her, so they have a conversation here. They go back down memory lane, talking about Acapulco, talking about it would be nice for all of them to be together, and he seems fine, except slightly in a moment, he kind of forgets that his wife has left the room and has to be reminded immediately by Hugh, and then we find out that he gave Daphne the power of attorney over Hugh because Hugh wouldn't kill his 9-year-old. What was a dog, a rabbit?
Jar Jar the cat.
Jar Jar the cat. That's what it is. Jar Jar the cat there, which of course is an absolute setup here. Daphne gives the necklace to Hughie to essentially say, "Hey, you can put this ring on Starlight or on Annie, Starlight rather, when you're ready to propose to her." Then Hughie Sr.'s compound V hits, and oh man, this is horrific. He pulls out 2 hearts, he explodes someone's chest, and it takes Hughie Jr. talking him down through love, which I think is a bit of a play on Alzheimer's and dementia. And then in the end, it is Hughie who has to kill his own father there with Daphne's help. And I got to tell you, Shannon, this was heartbreaking. I cried. I did my reaction to this episode, which may be up by now or will be up after with the review is up, but like I was in a wreck watching these scenes. Simon Pegg and Jack Quaid just doing wonderful work together with Rosemary DeWitt there. But I have to say, dude, Daphne is suspect. I mean, she put the compound V in him because she says, I thought that's what you wanted. She gives the ring to put around Annie's ring. So I wonder if this has all been a setup by her. Remember, she works for Vought. Has she been sent in to kill Hughie's dad, to get to Starlight, and to kill Hughie? So I'm just throwing it out there. What are your thoughts about this emotional story here in the center of this episode? And what are your thoughts on Daphne?
Well, I mean, just the fact that we didn't see how the compound V got into the IV.
Yeah.
And Hughie's mom, Rosemary DeWitt, saying that, well, it fell out of your pocket. I thought that's what you want.
Yeah.
There's a pretty big jump there.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, this thing fell out. Let me hook it into my my ex-husband who's currently in a coma.
Without telling my son. Yeah.
That's a pretty big leap in logic. But again, that was the thing that I had thought. I'm like, is this and I don't, because we've had such a deep, catalog of characters that we've met. I'm like, is she like a shapeshifter? Is she someone else? Because that's just kind of crazy. But again, as they're talking about all those memories.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, she was contributing to those stories. So
Yes.
it's like maybe this is you. But whenever Simon Pegg uses an American accent, it is always so jarring, and not and that's not any sort of ding on his performance. I'm just so used to hearing Simon Pegg with his normal English accent. Like when he had his Scottish accent as Scotty, that doesn't affect me the way that him doing an American accent does, because he does it really well. Like I think he does a very, very good American accent.
I agree.
It's just so like it's a needle scratch for a moment. But the slow, like when he doesn't realize that the mom's gone. Yeah. And that it's a slow build, and then it takes off like a rocket ship. And watching the just horror in his eyes as he realizes, oh my gosh, what have I done? And then he sort of regresses back 20 years maybe, when Daphne, the mom, had left. And you see the danger in what he could do right now. Right. He's phasing through walls and phasing into people's chests. Doing the whole Professor Zoom thing where he vibrates his hand so fast that he can reach into someone and pull out their heart. The whole thing was just every story. Like normally when you're writing, there's A story, B story, C story. Right. I couldn't tell you what was what in this episode because they were all so important, and everyone got sort of equal airtime almost. But that moment at the end where Hughie does have to make that decision. I mean, the whole Jar Jar thing. I mean, I'm with you. Yeah. Like there was a moment again, and this is after some flying sheep have ripped some people apart. Yeah. I'm leaning forward, and my wife knows this lean whenever there's a dad on screen and the dad might be expiring. I mean, immediately her hand goes to my back because she's like, she knows where I am mentally at that point. And I mean, just watching, I mean, a beautiful performance from all three performers, Jack Quaid, Rosemary DeWitt, and Simon Pegg.
Yeah, he's like the scariest version of Kitty Pryde is what he becomes there when he like goes through the walls and then appears in that dude's chest when homie's trying to ask the nurse out. It's just and then but the thing that really struck me is that he willingly took hearts out of people's bodies. So like if they had left him alive, there is actually a path of death in front of him for his situation, and because he can't remember things and he's having Alzheimer's and dementia, that makes it all the more chilling. Do you know what I'm saying? And I've never experienced that with anyone I love, thank God, but like I can only imagine what that journey is like and how painful and horrific that is. But it opened the door to a beautiful moment from Jack Quaid, who kind of hasn't had a lot of opportunities this season to really kind of take center stage as he's had in the past. And I thought this was a nice way to kind of give him that moment, and then at the end give him the moment to take his father out. But Daphne's super suspect. It never even thought she might be a shapeshifter, dude. So now you've made my head go into an interesting place. So
I could be completely wrong.
I like it. It works. So it makes it even more chilling because now he can't hate his mom because it's not actually his mom. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if it's Daphne who turns, then it's a double whammy in that he has lost his father because of his mother again almost, and then lost his mother again. So there's like a lot of pain that he would have to go through in this. But if it's a shapeshifter, then it's a whole nother ballgame, which I think could be fascinating.
I mean, and a shapeshifter, why? Who knows? Like, as you said already, she worked for Vought. I think, giving that ring that, he put that, proposed to Annie. It's like, okay, what does that ring do?
That's got to be a tracker. So to me, that's what I think is going on there. But we'll see. And who is she? Who has she been sent by? That's the next piece of this puzzle if we don't know yet.
My guess would be Victoria Neuman. That would be my guess. But again, we are way down the rabbit hole right now.
And we only have 3 episodes left in this season, so we'll see if it extends out into the next season. But let's get into the last storyline here, the farm and the boys. That's what I call it. Joe, who seems to pop up out of nowhere, Shannon. I think the theory that he is the devil and Becca is the angel has really solidified in my mind, because no one, and I mean no one, talks to Joe. No one's in the same room with Joe. Joe always materializes, but in this case, he convinces Butcher to get Stan Edgar, the great Giancarlo Esposito, out of prison to get the virus there to take down Homelander at Victoria's place. They end up there. Victoria walks in on them with her crew in the lab there. They're just perplexed about what a lab is doing here. And you realize what they are, what's going on. They've been building up the virus, testing it on these animals. And these animals are sent or have the compound V within them. And this is utter madness. First, it's flying chickens. Then it's a crazed bull. And then the flying sheep. And of course, there's a bunny there that Butcher kills because he probably senses that it's what's happening to him. And that's almost like the fly moment with Jeff Goldberg or the original with Vincent Price. And then they escape, but not before Butcher cuts off Samir's leg, who we discover there in the second barn, and captures him with Joe over his shoulder so he can make a new virus to kill Homelander. So your thoughts on this, all the stuff that happened in this particular these sections of the show?
House of Horrors. this whole storyline. I had not picked up on the fact until last week when either you or Vogel said it about Jeffrey Dean Morgan potentially not being there because he only interacts with Butcher. Again, some great jokes in this, like some great one-liners. When he says, talking about a meeting place, and he's like, well, I was going to suggest your mother's nether regions, but I wanted some privacy. Like, just some great, old school ball busting mom jokes. As they get to the farm, as they get Stan Edgar out. I mean, again, Giancarlo Esposito he's just so freaking good. Like the amount of time that you have to study and perform on camera to be as freaking still as that guy is. And it's just so effective. I mean, I think Giancarlo Esposito is probably teaching the cast of House of the Dragons how to do that, because they all have that same sort of eerie stillness to their performances. But yeah, they get to the farm. You see the redecorating that Victoria Neuman has done. And Tomer Capone, and I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but low-key the comedic MVP this season. I mean, his takes, like going back to the second episode, like the pink eye.
Yes.
And when that chicken bursts through the guys, it's a V chicken. Like, his takes in those heightened moments are always just so funny.
Wait. I don't think he's in any condition to have sex with a sheep.
This man is in no condition to have sex with a sheep. Like, he is fantastic. But then you watch how Annie is having some difficulty accessing her powers. Victoria Neuman, the boys, as good as they are, the fact that they didn't think that, he's got an ankle monitor on, she's going to be alerted right away.
100%. 100%.
Stan Edgar's line, like, it amazes me you all have survived this. Like,
great line.
Just a lot of great one-liners. But then you get to that action with the flying sheep. Again, you see the bull, and it's just a great screenwriting misdirect of, like, you see this imposing animal who we've all seen videos. There's one recently that escaped a rodeo in Oregon and just hurls a woman, like, just goes ass over ankles 3 times. And so you see a juiced up V bull being like, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, the sheep tear it in pieces. Man. Flying sheep is one of those things that I never thought, as a concept, never entered my imagination. But seeing that it is so ridiculous and also a tremendous threat. And then we do get to meet Samir, Zoe's dad. And watching how the plan comes up that they've got 1 vial of the virus left, and they're going to use it to basically kill these sheep. And yes, for anyone that had doubted Jeffrey Dean Morgan is not a figment of Billy Butcher's imagination, or he's literally the parasite inside, because at one point as he's talking to Samir, and he's just like, we're going to get you fixed right up. And he calls over his shoulder because Jeffrey Dean Morgan's there. And you see Samir has that take. He looks over like, who's this guy talking to? Even with his severed foot.
Yeah.
He can look over and be like, well, this guy's not right. But again, all three main storylines were just fantastic. And just when you think they can't outdo themselves in terms of action, they're able to do it.
Yeah, and everyone's got their things that they're confronting going into next episode. As you said, Annie's powers, certainly Victoria Neuman is now worried about where Samir is and saves Stan Edgar from going back to prison. So what's that situation going to be like? So clearly there is a kryptonite to her, and that is her feelings for Samir. So that's deep. So how is Butcher going to use that against her? There's questions there. How is Hughie going to recover from what he did to his father? Will she turn on him? Frenchie turns himself into the cops at the end of the episode. Kimiko hasn't even confronted yet what happened at the end of the last episode with that girl she dragged into that fighting pit and possibly the sex trade, whatever they had trafficking going on that's there. And then, of course, the Seven, everything with Homelander, what's going on with Sister Sage. So all of this stuff, there's so much that we got, and boom, we're jumping into the next few episodes to see how this is all going to wrap up and leading us into season 5, which I think they should not have announced and just let this season play out so we would have the stakes in our minds high about how this is going to go and then announced it after the season. So, but now we go, well, how are they going to drag this out into a second season, or a fifth season rather? But either way, it's still been fun so far, and especially this episode. Any final words here, Shannon, as we're wrapping up on this episode, or what we think we're going to get in the future?
I mean, my guess is that they know the end of this story. So I actually think announcing it was probably a good idea, because that's like, we only have so much, so let's all watch as much of this as we can.
We're all in. Yeah.
And also the admitting desk officer, when Frenchie turns himself in, did you get Laura Kelly vibes off of that individual?
That's a great point. Yeah, Catherine Gauthier is the actress's name, and yeah, I had to look her up because I had the same feeling. I was like, wait, she looks familiar, and then I remembered, wait, no, she looks familiar because she kind of looks like Laura. So yes, good call there, man.
That was my last final thought, was Laura Kelly cameoing in The Boys.
Perfect. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review here on this episode of Geek Bites for episode 5 of season 4. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, which, of course, if you want to look up the Jabberwocky poem, I think that's what they're referencing as a bit of a message or a symbolism there. And we got 3 episodes left, Shannon. So things are going to start ramping up real soon on this one, and we'll see who survives and who dies here by the end of the season, and as we jump into season 5 as well. So thank you all so much for joining us here for this spoiler review, whether you're watching it or listening to us. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow the vacationing Michael Vogel, it is at MK2. And if you would like to follow the always working Johnny Rocha, it's at the Rocha Says.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. And you can follow us, of course, on all our social medias. You can leave your comments down below. Would love it if you subscribed to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, but also subscribe to our podcast feed. We want to get more and more people subscribed to that podcast feed. So definitely do that. And if you listen to any of our commercials and you want to support any of our clients using our code, we encourage you to do that as well. We stand behind all the products that we talk about in the commercials during these shows. So please make sure you do that as well. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. We'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review of The Boys on the Geek Bites here, brought to you by the
Geek Buddies.